morning, everyone. Welcome to Mornings with Mayesh, and thank you so much for joining us today. Our newest Mayesh design star, Amanda Bowman of Amanda B's Floral Design, is my guest today. Super excited because she is bringing the retail perspective into our series this year, and we're going to dive deeper into this topic. We don't get into retail very often, so that's one of the reasons why we're excited. We've gotten a lot of really great comments and feedback from people, and so today we're going to talk a little bit more about her Posy retail program. We're going to talk about tips for getting started in retail, talk about deliveries, websites, and so much more, including answering your flower questions. So I'm just going to give everyone a minute to join us while we get started. Say hello and let us know where you are from. And then also, while we're waiting, I just wanted to remind everyone that as soon as this show is over, the replays are going to be available pretty much immediately up on Facebook and YouTube. Then I will be uploading to IGTV. Hopefully we are live there. Definitely we'll double check that. And if you have any questions while we're going, that is lovely. Of course, that's one of my favorite parts. So when you have a question, just go ahead and pop them into the comments and we'll get to those as it makes sense or as we go. Sound good? All right, so let me bring on Amanda. Hey,
hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
I know, I'm really excited about this. Actually, I just got a comment from someone and I wanted to read it from, let's see, from Joe. She said, thank you. So happy to see a retail-focused info video. As a retail-only florist who doesn't cater to events, event planning, or large-scale designing, this is so helpful, appreciated, and missed. So yeah, just I knew a lot of people were going to have that sentiment, and just happy to share that comment with you. I don't know if you saw it because it literally just came in
I was going to say I haven't seen it, but no, I do really appreciate that. And I kind of figured the same thing. It's a facet that isn't talked about as much, but I'm excited to be talking about it on here.
Yes. So before we get started, and for those who may not know you, can you first introduce yourself and share a bit about your flower story?
Yeah, my name is Amanda Bowman, for those that are just joining. My business name is Amanda B's Floral Designs. We're based in Houston, the suburbs of Houston anyways. And I started my business full-time in 2018. I was in college and I was doing my business, doing weddings and events, and freelancing and a lot of different things, but didn't really dedicate my business until full-time in 2018. And I was doing not only weddings events, but then I added on this Posy program, which is hopefully a pretty easy to understand retail aspect, where you essentially are adding flowers into a bouquet and wrapping them in paper, and you can add whatever sentiment in a card, and it's easy. And I still do that to this day. I do a lot more than that now, but that's how I started, and I love it. It's great.
Perfect. So just for those who may not have watched your video yet, I'm sharing the link in the comment section so that way people can check that out afterwards. Obviously I'm so happy that we met you and that we created videos on this topic that we've just never covered before. We've had a few retail videos a while ago, but we've never really talked about retail posies ever. So always exciting to cover something new. So again, for those who may not have watched, can you do just a quick recap of your Posy program and what the video was all about?
Yeah, so in the video, I talk about how when I first started my business, I only had 3 products, and all of those were posies. And the whole vocabulary, what a posy traditionally is it's supposed to be a bouquet that you can hold in one hand. For me, that can be something as small as a little, what we call a nosegay, where you hold those for a wedding. But then it can go into literally what I have is a bouquet that I can still hold with one hand. It is pretty large, but it's something that you can pick up from a market. And I really started out with 3 sizes, and those were it. Each posy gets 7 to 8 different botanicals, and a single, which is our first tier, gets 1 of each thing. Our second tier, which is our double, gets 2 of each thing, and our triple, our third tier, and our most expensive tier gets 3 of each thing. And a triple posy, really, I can't go any bigger than that. It's a lot of stems, and you can't hold it with one hand if you go any bigger. So that's why we have those. When I started out, I wanted to have an option for people that was affordable, which is why our single tier, our single posy is $40, and I wanted something that was an under $50 range, only because when I was figuring out my target audience, I was looking at someone in around this middle class, high middle class, and I realized that was a good price point to get them in the door. And obviously, I have a lot of people that get more than that, but a lot of the times people start out with the single posy and then they go from there. So, but yeah, I wanted to make sure that there was an affordable option for people.
Yeah, I love it. And actually, this isn't in my questions that I put together ahead of time for you, but it just reminded me of when I had another guest on who is from France, right? And so like her very first holiday, she did hand-wrapped bouquets. And then she got a bunch of calls from customers upset because it didn't include a vase, right? And she didn't understand that, right? Like in Europe, it's just normal for people to take like wrapped a posy and pop it in their vase at home.
Yes.
So like, have you had any resistance to that, or is just?
So when I first started out, yes, it was an interesting concept because I did make it very clear, and it doesn't matter how much you say there's no vase included, there will still be people that ask. Right. I don't have as much of that anymore, especially people who come in, they pick up something. They obviously see it when I give it to them that doesn't include a vase. Whenever we do leave them on the doorstep, we leave a small vase of water because we obviously don't want them to be without water. But the whole concept is that you're supposed to use your own. So that's why if somebody answers the door, we give it to them and they don't have a vase. It's not that we don't want to give them a vase or they don't deserve a vase. It's just that it's not included. Right. People can add on a vase in our program, but what I encourage people to do is if you want a vase, then order an arrangement. And the price difference is you are getting a designer to actually design a beautiful arrangement and use their craft as opposed to a posy. There is a little bit of design included, but not as much as if I was to fully integrate my design into an arrangement. So it is a little bit of a learning curve, and my customers have been very understanding and very reasonable, and I'm very grateful for that. But definitely is educating customers is not the easiest thing ever.
Right. Yeah. And that was her big thing, is it was just an education, and also kind of like her business model being more sustainable and reusing things that you already have, or absolutely, you know, selling a customer a beautiful like one-time vase instead of like having 10 super cheap vases sitting around in your house. Exactly. That no one really needs.
And everyone has them. Everyone has that drawer or that cabinet in their house that is full of vases that they've gotten from the 80s until now, and they've never touched them. And that whole point is get them out of your cabinet and use them.
Yep, exactly. No, so good.
Good question.
Thank you. Once in a while, I come up with some questions on my own. Okay, so our next question is, do you have any advice for floral designers who want to add or start a retail faucet to their existing business?
I do. I have lots of advice on it. The first piece of advice that I would have for people is to make things really easy for yourself. If you want to add retail to your facet, to your business, if like you're already in the wedding and event industry, make it simple. Do something like posies or something, a couple of arrangements, and have a couple color schemes. Just make it so easy so that way you can portray that and educate your customers. I'm adding this service. This is what I have. I have a little kitten in the back here that's causing a ruckus behind my blinds.
So cute. I love kittens.
She's a mess. She's my flower shop kitty. We found her in front of the flower shop, believe it or not. So anyways, so I would say go there. And then the other way I would say is definitely go freelance and work for other people in the retail industry. Find flower shops that you admire and that are successful, and go see how they do everything on the front end and the back end. See how they are when they're busy, see how they are when they're slow, and just gain as much information. Be a sponge. Don't judge what they're doing, because everyone has a reason for why they do things, and you're never going to know until you're really into the thick of it.
So true. Very good advice.
But those are my two biggest things is, yes, in the retail world, see whatever you can find. That's, I think, my biggest struggle when I first started was I kept looking at, the front end of things, but I didn't see the back end of things. And so that's why I say it's important to see how a lot of people work.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So I feel like for retail business, right, deliveries is a big thing, like, because you're doing deliveries pretty much every day.
Right.
So we have a bunch of questions. So first one, kind of surrounding deliveries, are what are some struggles that you have faced when it has come to delivering flowers?
Yeah. So for those that are already in the retail industry, you're just going to say it's a struggle all around.
Right.
My biggest thing especially with my business, since most of it is website oriented on my online platform, is that you have to deal with what information the customer gives you. Whenever you are on the phone, you can prompt them with different questions. If you say, oh, we're in an apartment complex. Oh, well, what's the gate code? Those are the type of prompts that you can have if you're on the phone. When you're online, you don't have that opportunity. So you are hopefully just going to get the information, and it's your job to go and correspond with the recipient if you need more information. So that is a struggle if you are using an online platform. And then the other struggle is there are going to be some times where you might not be able to find someone to do deliveries for you. And that's really when it comes into the struggle of, okay, well, how much am I going to be responsible for doing the deliveries myself, and how much am I going to let somebody else do that for me? And then obviously you have the struggles of whenever you bring people on your team, how do you pay them? How do you handle having another person on your team? Picking a good person is important too. So, but those are some big struggles that I've had. Again, lack of information from customers, or from, me not answering or getting information correctly. And then two, having good people to do them for you if you can't do them yourself.
Yeah, very good points.
Yeah.
And so with deliveries, how do you figure out how much you charge, right? Like, that's a question pretty much we get on everything. Like, how do you charge for your cozies? How do you charge for delivery? How do you figure all that out?
So when I first started, I was working out of my home, and obviously picking up is not an option. I did not want to have myself, with customers just popping in and out of my house, and my HOA would not enjoy that either. So I had it to where delivery was your only option. I had a set route, I had a set amount of zip codes. We have a lot of zip codes in Houston that I would deliver to, and there was no extra charge for delivery. It was built into the price. That was it. When I opened up the shop, I changed that platform to where it's based on a radius of how much you get charged. So if you're 10 miles from the shop, you get charged this much. But if you're 20 miles, you get charged this much. I still have my zip code in place, but I looked at it from this perspective. If I now have a shop where people can come and have the option to pick them up for free, then they're paying someone to deliver it for you. So it's that added convenience.
Right.
And I still get a lot of people that request deliveries. And even though I charge more for it now, people still pay it. And I'm perfectly fine with that. But I think I've had a lot more people realize, oh, I can just pick it up for free. Oh, okay. Well, I'll just do that.
Right. Yeah. So, especially if they're already out or they're coming home. And yeah, it's easy.
Exactly. So.
And then what should you consider when you're deciding whether to hire or do it yourself?
Ooh, I will be honest. I would honestly do your own deliveries as much as you possibly can, especially when you're first starting out, only because you have to really do them yourself in order to figure out how much to charge, because it always seems like you can figure it out in your head mentally. Okay, if it takes me 30 minutes to get somewhere, then I need to charge an hour's worth of labor, right? You have to consider also that you're spending the time to get a delivery ready, to get it out the door, and explaining to whoever it is that you are trusting with your delivery to do it well and to do it correctly. And then you have the issue of, well, what if they're going to an apartment complex and the apartment complex is not labeled well, and your person has spent 15 minutes trying to find an apartment? Or if they go to a hospital and they have to charge or have to pay for parking in order to make a delivery. There's so many other things besides just 30 minutes to get there and 30 minutes back. What I have come to figure out is, if I can do as many as I can, then that's great. But whenever I am hiring someone to do it, I want to pay them well, and I want to make sure that they are, getting the job done well. And so I just kind of go with the expectation that I'm not going to make very much money on deliveries, because I would rather have people that I can trust to do the deliveries well. And some people might not want to take that approach, and that is perfectly fine. I don't expect everyone to agree with me on that, but I would rather be able to know that the deliveries are done well and that I am paying my people well. So that is kind of my approach, is do them for as long as you can on your own. But once you get to that point, make sure you hire good people to do it. Yeah,
I love that. For all of our retailers that are listening, how do you guys handle your deliveries? Do you do it yourself? Do you hire out? I'm imagining most people have to hire, because especially if you, once you start getting busy, you need to be designing.
Exactly.
And running the actual business piece of it.
Yes.
So yeah, I'd just be interested to hear what everyone says. Let's see. But Susan doesn't say anything about deliveries, but she says, I'm so happy to hear from a retail florist. Thanks, Susan.
It's definitely a struggle. Like, once you get to that point, figuring out when you need to be at that point where, okay, I can't handle this anymore. I need recruitments. I don't have anyone full-time that does deliveries for me. I have kind of a system of a few different people that I trust that will help me on days that I'm really busy. And I pay them that day, and they have their own jobs and things, but it took me a while to get to that point. It took me a while to find people that I was comfortable having, because it is something that I hold dear. Like, I really do actually enjoy doing deliveries. So it was it was really hard for me to get to that point to where I was like, okay, I can just let it go. I can just do it. Trust these people. It will get done.
Yes. Yeah.
Something I didn't expect. Like, you just think, oh yeah, just have the deliveries, whatever. It's fine. No, it took me a while to get to that point. It's like trusting your babies, like it's like giving your babies away.
Yes, for sure. Susan says that she has 2 part-time drivers on staff, and then that she charges a flat rate by zip code for delivery. Delivery fee for me also includes maintenance on the vehicle and the payment on the vehicles.
Yep.
Very good points.
It's a great way. Yep. Great way to do it. The way mine works is I have a few specific zip code sets for all of my different pricing structures. So there's a few zip codes that are even close to me that aren't necessarily by the radius. There's a few zip codes that are a little bit harder to get to, so I charge a little bit more for them, and that's just the way it is. But everyone especially like where I am, since there is such a big area that I can service, I have to kind of be particular, because even though something might not be as far from me, there might be a lot of traffic where I'm going, especially if I have to go into the inner city of the Loop, which is our downtown area in Houston. I charge a little bit more, just because it normally means that I have to pay for parking in order to make the delivery, or I have to deal with all of that lovely traffic that we have in Houston. So
right. Yeah. We're familiar with traffic here in Miami, that's for sure.
Yes, I am sure.
I see a comment here on the Instagram. It says from the Flower Lounge, and they say there's a company called Happy to Deliver that contacted me. They said they charge $1.50 a mile. Haven't tried them yet, so.
I have had a few of those companies contact me, and I've just found it's not a financially doable for me, just because, again, our mileage in our area that we service is about 30 miles. So it's really just, it's not feasible for me. I would rather pay someone directly and be able to support them and, go that route, other than having a company do it. And again, it's that trust, honestly, too, because you just never know who's going to be making the deliveries and how they're going to be caring for the things that they're having delivered. So, and I'm sure it works for some people, and that's great. For me and my personal experience, it just has not been an option for me. So,
very good. Moving on, you mentioned it earlier, websites. Websites are super uber important in doing business today.
Yes.
Do you have any tips for retail flower websites?
Yes. Oh my goodness. I have been through every single possible website structure that you can possibly imagine. Learned from each of them, but I will tell you, I have been with Shopify for a year, and I don't see myself ever leaving. It is amazing. It is made for people who do deliveries, and it is so customizable. It is user-friendly, and it is not super expensive. I was with WordPress for a while, and they have a e-commerce plugin called WooCommerce, and it was not user-friendly at all. It was very confusing. I've always had someone that has been there to help me with my websites. I have someone that is very good at their job. But even then, it was still, I couldn't do things as easily as I have been able to with Shopify. You do have to have someone on staff that is familiar with their code, because they don't use regular HTML code. Shopify has their own code, but it is not very hard to find someone, and I love it. Susan, to answer your question, yes, I have their POS. It was the easiest thing to set up. It was a deal. All I had to do was purchase their POS kit. You attach it to an iPad, and all of your information is already there, because Shopify has their own app for their POS that is connected to your online Shopify. So it's all under one umbrella. Honestly, I'm not even sponsored. I wish they would pay me, but no, I just love that so much. And anyone that is with either like Squarespace or Wix, I'm sure that there are some things that are great and that you love about them, but I'm telling you, find a free trial or something of Shopify, and I pretty much can guarantee that you're going to enjoy it a lot more. The user experience and the back-end experience is just so much better. So with that being said, yes, go and get a good website. It's very important.
Yes.
And get a good person that will help you along the way with that. I have an amazing girl who, if I have any questions of any kind, or if there's something on the rare occasion that something's broken on the website, she has it done, and I can't do it without her.
Yes. I think that's great. I mean, we're obviously a little bit different, but we have like a whole e-commerce team now. Mm-hmm. Like once you kind of focus on that and know that's the way that you need to go. And I think everyone should be offering some sort of e-commerce online shopping.
Absolutely.
It's just, it's very important to have someone that really knows what they're doing. Especially
Absolutely.
when it comes to the e-commerce piece of a website. Basic website's super easy, right? It's typically static and maybe a few things that you can do on it, forms, that type of thing. That part's pretty easy, but the e-commerce stuff can be a little complicated sometimes. Yes.
And I mean, with that being said, I would say, if you are just starting out in your business, in your retail business anyways, I would not even recommend getting a website right away. You can always just start by advertising on social media and have a phone number that's listed with your business, and that is your phone number, and you can invoice through PayPal or QuickBooks or whatever. You can always start out doing that and then work your way up to having a website, because it's a big investment. having a website made. So you can always just start out that way and work your way up to getting a good website. I wish I had done that, but I jumped the gun and was like, I have to have a website right now. So, but you can make it happen without it. It's fine.
But I'm a big believer in websites. I think it's really important to have a presence that you own. I mean, social media is great and it's lovely. But I also feel like having a website also lends itself to being maybe more trustworthy, more established, more.
The credibility is definitely there.
Right. So, even like maybe a compromise between like what you said and kind of my like full blown, let's go, and maybe, like how you started, but like having, just a website landing page type of thing and explaining how they can order, even if you don't have full e-commerce on there, I think would be really helpful. And then again, you can start building a little bit of content and the SEO, and it just really helps, I think, people find you, especially if you're growing your business.
Absolutely. Yes, baby. It's making those steps and honestly seeing what you can handle at a time. Having small short-term goals is very important, and objectives to those goals. It's a huge part of making a retail venture happen, because there are always going to be things that you want to add on and you want to continue in your business. And for me, it was a deal. I couldn't do those all at once. I had to wait a little while in order to open my flower shop, and now that I've got it, there's even still things that I want to do. And I'm like, well, I just can't do it. I can't financially handle that, or whatever. I don't have the staff to do it or whatever. But, it's setting those goals for yourself is very important.
Yeah, I love it. We had a new question come in through Instagram from Miss Flower Heart. She says, I'm super new to this and I've been thinking to start small and get to work, but I still don't feel confident enough. Any recommendations on how to take the first step?
Well, I would say if you are not feeling super confident about starting a retail venture, maybe if you are not as familiar with the area, maybe again, like go freelance for a few different people, or if you want to start with maybe doing a couple pop-ups in your area, that's one way to get a lot of exposure. And then to also kind of see in a mini version, like how a flower shop would run. If you maybe just have like some posies or some arrangements and you have like a cute little setup at a festival that you have in your local, or like I do Mother's Day and Valentine's Day pop-ups sometimes. And that's a great way to get started and see how you like it. Because if you aren't enjoying interacting with the people, and that is one of my biggest things about retail, is I have to interact with people all the time. So if you're not comfortable with that, that's a great way to kind of lean yourself in that direction.
Good advice. I hope that's helpful, Miss Flower Heart. And good luck with
everything.
Thanks
for the question.
Yeah. Okay, another thing came through. I think it's just a comment. Lord Flacco Jordy. I love all your guys' names. Squarespace was a huge help for me. I'm still learning and tweaking things every day. Imperfect progress is better than no progress. I love that hashtag.
Absolutely. Very good. Yeah, I had Squarespace for a while. It was a lot more useful than Wix. I just found there's a lot more customization through Shopify, but Squarespace is a great way to get started because it is very user friendly. The back end is very easy to use.
Yeah, I like Squarespace too. I've never used the e-commerce piece of it, but I have used the regular pieces of it, and it's a good back end. I like it.
Yeah. When I had just my weddings and events, I really enjoyed Squarespace for that reason.
Right. And totally agree with Lord Flacco Jordy. It's definitely better just to get started and be imperfect than waiting for everything to be absolutely perfect before you get started.
Absolutely. At least you're going somewhere.
Exactly. Just making baby steps. It's good. That's okay.
Yep.
And kind of like, and just going back to, Miss Flower Hearts, it's just kind of like fake it till you make it too. Like, even if you're not feeling confident, just act confident, and, you're going to gain that confidence as you go. And you're like, okay, I can do this,
Absolutely.
Like, I can do this.
Absolutely. And it's a deal. You don't have to be the most personable person in the world in order to do this, as long as you are kind and you are understanding of where the customer is coming from, then it'll be fine. You know, a person that walks into a flower shop would much rather have someone who is going to be kind and give them the answers that they need, as opposed to someone who is going to be, you know, nonchalant about them walking in the door. My biggest thing is I am appreciative of every single person that comes in my door, especially during the summer. It's not as busy as I would want it to be, but as long as I give a good experience to the people who do come in, that's all I care about.
Right. That's so true. So, so true. I think we have another question from Miss Flowerheart. She asks, any recommendations on how to juggle between having your own retail business and working full time?
Ooh. I would say if you have a full-time job, then I would work and get as much experience as you need. And then whenever you've built up a little bit of capital and a little bit of time, then to maybe go into that and maybe just go down to a part-time position. But full-time and retail are not easy to combine, because a lot of the times you need your normal business hours in order to run your retail business. For instance, you know, if you had a job where you maybe only work until noon, you could do something, because you can do your deliveries and get everything ready after you get back from work. But a lot of the times people want deliveries done pretty early. Like I try to have all my deliveries done by 2:00. And that is because I'm in a big area and rush hour starts at 3. So I do have to work kind of early in that regard. But
right.
I would say, you know, you don't have to do anything fast in that regard. Just save up and do your best at, you know, where you're at, and think about what business, like what you want your business to look like once you get to that point. Again, like we said before, it's all about getting to your goals, and nothing ever has to be a dramatic change. You can work your way up to that.
Exactly. And I feel like if you were going to try and do like a retail business and work full time, it would be possible if your full-time job, right, was very flexible in its hours, and you could like work like after traditional like retail flower shop hours, something like that. It would have, but it would have to be very flexible, I think, in order to do something like that.
Yes.
That, or you have like partners in your business where they can like help during the day, and then you can do things when you're available. But
like if you have creative. Well, and I've even had some people that have talked to me before, like where they have kiddos and they want to start doing retail stuff. And I would say, wait until your kiddos are old enough to be in school, and you can easily do it while they're in school. That's, I would say, if you drop your kid off at 8:00 and you pick them up at 2:00, you can easily get stuff made and delivered by that time. And then if you want to work your way up to having a full-time, you know, venture with that, then I would say it's completely possible. But yeah, unless if your full-time job is a little bit more flexible on hours and, you know, being able to have that flexibility, then I would say that would be something that you might just want to work towards.
Yeah, exactly. And then just another person that you might want to listen to for inspiration is Gary Vee. He talks a lot about changing careers and doing what you love and being brave, and also your ego and kind of how that stops a lot of people from doing what they really want to do. So check him out. If you guys have followed me for a while, you know I love him. I still love him, even though I haven't listened to him in a little bit. But he always has really good advice and just some great content. Yep, exactly. We keep on getting a lot of great questions, which makes me so happy. So this one is from What's Up, Ryan? I don't know. Okay, so she or he says, I just started my own shop out of my garage, and I'm still so intimidated at the wholesalers. How do you plan an order for the work week? Hope this makes sense. Yeah.
So this is what I really love to talk about. So when I first started out, and even still to this day, if I do not have any pre-orders, then this is what I do. I order one bunch of each thing needed for a posy for that week, and that's it. That is all I start out with. When I go to the wholesaler on Monday, that's what I do. And if I sell everything, then I go back. But asterisk here. I live close enough that that is absolutely feasible for me. If I, for any reason, need to go to the wholesaler, it is not that big of a deal for me to go 2 or 3 times in a week. I think Mother's Day week, I was there almost every day, and I'm sure Jamie was getting tired of me. But my rep, Jamie. But when it comes to buying, my process is I only am going to buy what I absolutely have to, and I would rather go back and buy more. I know there is a lot of flower shops where they have standing orders with their wholesalers, and they just have what's on their website, and they have a bunch that they order so that way they don't have to go back. But to me, I would rather not have one flower left in the cooler at the end of the week. So I buy a little bit at a time. If I have pre-orders already set, then I will buy more. So that way I have a good amount after I've done making my pre-orders. But it's not meant to be intimidating. I know it can be, but if you just have that in your mindset, only buy what I need, then if you do have any at the end of the week, then you don't feel like that you've wasted as much because you did not spend all of your money in one week. I mean, when I first started and I was going to Mayesh, I mean, I was only spending like $80 a week, because I literally was just buying what I needed, and that's all. And there is nothing wrong with that. If you have sold every single one of your stems and you have satisfied your customers, then don't feel ashamed about it at all. And with that being said, if I still to this day, I tell my husband, if I'm able to turn my CoolBot off at the end of the week, then I've had a good week.
Right. So. Instead of having leftovers, right?
Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with having like leftovers, especially for things. If you're able to get a good box lot deal on something that is hardy, like let's say you have alstroemeria or carnations that you got a really good deal on and you want to use them for the next week. I mean, I don't think there's any shame in that. But for me in general, I buy what I need, and I don't buy in excess. Only because I'm not at that point. I'm not here to say that I'm at 100% where I want to be in my business. I would love it if I could buy more every week, but I'm not to that point, and I don't want to waste my money on flowers that get thrown away at the end of the week. So yeah, very good question though. And I hope you do really well in your business. Working out of your garage is a good way to start, especially if you have a area that you can work at and feel comfortable. Here in Houston, it's just a little bit too hot for me to do that.
Yeah. And I think buying flowers is just intimidating because there's so many different kinds. There's the seasonal availability is different for everything. Mm-hmm. The bunch sizes are different. The bunch size can be different for the same product depending on the grower.
Right.
There's a lot to know about flowers. So I think it's just getting to know your sales rep too, and just kind of building that relationship, and Absolutely. They'll be able to help you, and you can ask whatever, right? And and they're there for you. So
Absolutely.
Hopefully,
and that's the great thing about Mayesh is all of their reps are really good at answering questions. But really, I mean, it is very important in order to have a good relationship with your sales rep, because they are the ones that are going to help guide you as you grow and you learn about this business. Especially, I mean, even to this day, I ask her a question every single week. Like, what is this? Why is this in a 5-stem bunch instead of a 10-stem bunch this week? Does that mean they're going to cost more or whatever? Like, yes, there's still tons of questions, and it's nothing to feel afraid about. It's exciting. It's exciting to learn new things along the way. So
yes, for sure. For sure. We still have more questions rolling in. Our next one is from Lord Flacco Jordy. I have another question. Opinions on purchasing an existing flower shop that's maybe retiring and rebranding versus a retail space from scratch with your own brand. That's a big one.
It is. Thankfully, I know of a few friends who have done that, where they have purchased flower shops that are already established. And I personally, if you have the opportunity to do that, I would do a lot of research. I would look into their customer base and see if they have a lot of repeat customers, because if they do, that means that they're good at taking care of their customers. I would definitely meet with a financial advisor and have everyone look over their books really well, and then definitely want to hire a lawyer and make sure that they are conducting their business legally and that they've done all of that. Very ethically.
Right.
But other than that, yeah, if you have the opportunity to do that, please do. And especially if they already have good employees that are set. I mean, and if you get along with them, I mean, I think it's a great opportunity to do that. There was
Yeah.
not in my area, because where my flower shop is actually a new master plan community. It's I think like first decade of being built. And so there wasn't any around me. So I had to build everything from scratch. But if I had had the opportunity to do that, I absolutely would have. And especially because then you have all the coolers and you have all the space and everything is made for you. And yeah, but definitely not opposed to it at all. It just takes a lot of work.
Yeah, Susan is sharing, again, thank you, Susan. She says, I owned the cottage QC and purchased it 4 years ago from a previous owner, and so glad I did. So definitely can be a good thing to do.
Absolutely.
Very good. Okay, our next question is from Popular Grove Floral. And they say, CoolBot, any good place to find info on those? I've heard of them, but not sure what they are exactly, like costs and how to use them.
Okay, so a CoolBot is essentially a little bitty box, my magic box, that attaches to a window unit, and it essentially manipulates the window unit to not stop after it reaches 60 degrees. In a normal window unit, it will stop after it reaches 60 degrees and it turns back on when it gets above that. Whenever you use it, you do have to abide by CoolBot's website's list of different AC units. There have been a lot of people that have bought just whatever AC unit that they wanted to, and that was cheap or whatever, and it doesn't work. It's not compatible with every single one. Everything that you need to know about CoolBot is on their website. You do want to make sure that you have a room that is well insulated. You want to make sure that you have a room that you don't have to worry about mold or anything like that. Like, for instance, if you have a room that is just like a regular insulated room, you might want to add a little bit of Kills onto your paint, so that way you don't get any mold buildup or anything like that. And then for my situation, when I built out my flower shop, I built a room and I had exterior doors put in, so that way they sealed well, because you definitely want to make sure everything is sealed perfectly.
Right.
My CoolBot stays at about 45 degrees, which is a little bit normal than most people. And I should say asterisk in the summer. Like right now, it's sitting at about 45 degrees. You can get it down way lower than that, but with the BTU unit that I have and how hot it gets over the summer, I'm in a metal building, a lot of different factors, but I'm happy with mine. I've had mine since I started in 2018, and I don't have any other cooler, honestly, because I just love it so much. And it's easy to use. It's easy to figure out. But everything you do need to know is on their website. You don't really, they're pretty good at all of their correspondence too, if you have any questions.
Yeah, and I looked up their website. It's storeitcold.com, and then they have a bunch of information on there. So I have it in the comments on Facebook and YouTube, and I'll see if I can get it up on Instagram. But it will definitely be up on our blog show notes after the show in a day or two.
I will say, as far as the investment goes, I can't remember how much the unit itself is. I think it's less than $1,000. And then however much you want to spend on your insulation and, wherever it is you're going to put it, totally up to you in that regard. But then, you do have the cost of your window unit itself, and that can be anywhere from $200 to $800. I think we bought one that was around the $300 range. So if you look at it in comparison to how much you're going to spend on a walk-in cooler, it is minimal. My cooler room that I have set up is about 110 square foot, and it's 10-foot ceiling. So it's pretty big.
Right. Very good.
I would not want to have bought a new walk-in cooler for that amount.
Yeah. She's also asking if the CoolBot adds moisture to the air.
Yes, it does. I don't have any issues with any drying out of my flowers at all. Like, I've worked in shops where they had just a drink cooler that's not a high humidity cooler, and it was terrible. Like, stuff would get freezer burnt all the time, and I have not had that happen in this regard at all. And granted, I live in Houston where we have 70% humidity on a normal day, but you can always try it out. And then if you need to, you can add a humidifier to your room. That's very inexpensive to do. So
yeah, that's a good idea. And then I think one last question about coolers from La Casa Floral MTY. They ask, when you started your business, did you have a cooler? Where I live, summer is very hot. I feel you.
Yes, when I first started, I had the CoolBot, and I had it in a small room in my house that I insulated, and I never had any issues. Granted, like I was talking a little bit beforehand, I try not to have any waste at the end of the week. So it's a huge help whenever I need any. If I do have any leftovers at the end of the week, they still last just fine. But again, it totally depends on where you are. Sometimes it might be a deal like during the summer months, sometimes my cooler is sitting at 50 degrees and I have to turn down my AC in my flower shop in order to get it down. And that does cost a little bit to, cool that. But it's, again, when I think about how much I spend on a monthly basis on my electricity and everything that is involved with having my CoolBot, it is minimal. And the fact that I didn't have to have an electrician or like a refrigeration specialist come and set everything up, like I was able to do it with me and just my husband. It's very easy and it's very economical. So
I love it. Great advice for people that want to have a cooler that don't really have either the means or the space to have something like a big walk-in cooler.
And even for people who are doing weddings and events, whenever you are doing a travel related wedding, like if you are going somewhere, like even if you're going to an Airbnb, you can bring a window unit with you with your CoolBot and you can create your own cooler. It's that easy.
Wow. I've never thought of that.
I've seen it done. Yep.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yep.
Very good. Okay, so I have a couple of more questions that Susan sent in before the show started. The first one is, how do you juggle not knowing what orders are coming in daily with what flowers you have on hand to help minimize waste? And I think you've talked a little bit about that. I don't know if there's something else that you wanted to say, though.
No, not really. I mean, just
buy what you need.
Buy what you need. Again, I buy the minimal amount that I can. I buy one bunch of each thing to start the week if I don't have any pre-orders. On top of that, if I have single posies, and that's all I'm selling, then I can get 10 posies out of a bunch because I put one of each thing in a single. So if you have more than that, buy an extra bunch. If you have 5 or 6 orders, buy a couple more bunches of each thing. You have to determine, and after you get a lot of experience of buying every week, you will start to kind of figure out the rhythm of how your business works. And it does take some time to figure out. I mean, I would say there are some weeks where I will have bought a little bit more just because I had an inkling. And sure enough, I will have sold every single stem. And then there's going to be weeks where, you just think it just seems like a really slow week and I don't have any pre-orders and I buy the minimum amount and that was perfect. Again, the most important thing though, is if you have the ability to go to your wholesaler more than once a week and like if you don't live 2 hours away from your wholesaler, it is very easy to do. I mean, just go and get some more stuff. And then if it's different from what you had at the start of the week, then I just post, hey, this is what I have for the rest of the week. Or I say, you know what, that's enough orders for the week and I can't handle any more. So then you just say, we're sold out. Sorry. It also will encourage your customers to pre-order as opposed to being used to just be able to show up and say, hey, I want flowers. Because to me, I would much rather have people pre-order.
Yes, exactly. So Jamie, I hope that helps answer your question too about how to estimate how many flowers you purchase weekly. Because she or he is starting up and she says she needs help there. So I think that was good. And then, okay, so now Susan asks, how many arrangements do you have on your website? Do you have arrangements and hand-tied bouquets on there?
So as of right now, and this is kind of a multifaceted answer. I have 2 arrangements. I have a smaller one, and then I have a larger one. And then I have my 3 posies. That's it. Because my arrangements and my posies that I have on here is honestly what I have purchased for my orders. If there are people who want something custom, or if they want to spend a certain amount, then they have to call me or they have to email me during business hours. And to me, my thought process is I would rather have less on my website. I mean, I think it's still a good amount. There's multiple price ranges that people can go on there, but you have the convenience of being able to order whenever you want. And you don't have to call anyone. You don't have to talk to anybody. But if you want, let's just say, so my 2 arrangements on my website, one is $60, one is $125. That's a big gap. And I don't have anything in the middle, because if somebody does want to spend $100, then they can call me and they can order a $100 arrangement. And that is perfectly fine. I am totally fine with accommodating people in that regard. But for easiness sakes on my website, I have less options. If you want more options, then you have to talk to somebody to get it.
I feel like too, it kind of goes into the mindset of, well, I'm going to spend $100. I was going to spend like a good amount of money. So let me just buy this one that's a little bit more expensive. Mm-hmm. Do you think that happens?
Yes, I definitely have had people where they have messaged me on social media that night, and when I'm already in bed, and say, hey, I really want to spend $100, but I don't see that option on your website. And then I'll wake up in the morning and I have an order for the larger arrangement. And so yeah, if it's worth it for people, they will spend the money. If it's not, then they will call me in the morning, and when I open and they say, hey, I want to spend this much, and I go, okay, that's fine. And then because I have so few options on my website, I do get a lot of custom orders. And what I tell people is just give me a week's notice and I'll be happy to accommodate. And even then, if I know I'm going to be going to the market on Monday and somebody calls me on Friday wanting something for next week, then I'll accommodate that too. As long as I know that, there's nothing that I can't get from Mayesh when I go on Monday, I'm fine. If someone is asking for a dozen roses and they want it in a specific color, I say, not a problem. I'll pick it up on Monday. It's really, I don't accommodate custom orders if I have already been to the market that week and I know I'm not going to, only because I set that limit for myself when I first started, because the whole point is I want to sell what I have. I think there's too many times where we make exceptions for customers and we end up running ourselves thin because we're trying to accommodate people a little bit too much. And that is a concept that is absolutely subjective to each person, to each their own in that regard. But that's what I decided on my business was, if I'm not going to be going to the market for the rest of the week, or if there's not something that I need, then I'm not going to do that. Unless if they have a specific amount of money they want to spend. If they want to spend a lot of money, then yes, I might make that exception, but it has to be worth it for me to make the time to create that arrangement, go to the market, get everything that's needed, and have it all done for them. So to me, it has to be worth it in that regard.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great thing. And it, I'm sure, greatly reduces your stress too. Like, I'm not trying to please every single little thing that comes through or what people want. You're just like, this is me and this is what I offer. And
that is,
here we go.
It's, I think what in modern retail floristry, what has to change is the narrative of, I am not going to please every single customer that comes into my door, because I'm setting limits and I'm setting boundaries for me and my business. It's a hard concept to get, especially if you have been doing where everyone can just walk in and get whatever they want. But for me, I am trying to change that. I don't want everyone to assume that they can get everything. I want people to be appreciative of what I am offering, because I'm a designer, I'm an artist. I have in big letters right when you walk into my shop, we're a little bit different here and we like it that way. I'm not going to make everyone happy, but I'm okay with that. If the ones that I do make happy are ecstatic, then at the end of the day, that's all I care about.
I love it. I love it. Huntress Floral says, preach. And I think I found my sound clip for my little audiogram that I'm going to create after this. So thank you for that.
It's hard. It's a hard thing to get in that mindset. It is. I will say it's been easy for me because I started out that way. Like it's a hard concept for people to understand that if you want something specific, you might not get it. And that you have to kind of base everything off of seasonality. So it's not an easy thing to start. And yeah, for me, who is not confrontational, it was a big struggle. But once you put it into that narrative of I'm the expert, I'm the one that knows about this, and I'm going to give you something better than what you probably had planned anyways.
Right.
Everything goes smoothly after that.
Yes.
Smoothly in, quotation marks.
I love it. I love it. So good. Okay. So let's get to the controversial question.
Oh no.
Yep. Someone wants to know, Susan, are you a part of a wire service? And if so, what percent of your business comes from them? If not, were you ever, and why did you discontinue them or not decide to do it? Such a good question. I know we like controversy here. Yeah, I do.
Long story short, no, I am not with a wire service. I'm not with any middleman. No, none at all. I have been. I was a part of one that was a newer, little bit more of a modern wire service. I say wire service, but it really was just a middleman service.
Right.
It's not like there was, anyways. They had a pricing structure where they would just take a percentage out of the arrangements, and I got to pick the arrangements that I made, and I got to make my budget for those arrangements. So I, at the time, was perfectly fine with that. I was getting started, I was new, and I needed to just have some work. I was perfectly fine with that. Then they changed their pricing structure to a monthly fee, and that did not work because at the time, I was only getting a few orders a month. That does not really make it a sustainable option for me. If I am only getting orders the majority of in February and in May, Valentine's Day and Mother's Day, but yet I'm still having to pay a monthly fee, then that doesn't make it work for me. I am sure there are people in certain areas of the world that, little kitten. I'm sure there's certain areas of the world where this works because maybe you're getting a little bit more orders and all of that. But for me, it just wasn't worth it. And I think really when it comes down to wire services in general, it has to financially make sense for you. It has not made financial sense to me. So I spent that money and I went into other facets. And I have found that financially, I make a lot more money doing that. So that's really what it boils down to, is if it financially makes sense for you and you enjoy doing it, great. To me, if you are going to go with a wire service, I think it is important that you are able to choose what you sell and what your prices are. So, because at the end of the day, if you're able to choose and have control over that, then you can do a little bit more as far as financially you can go into that. So I'm not going to name any names or anything like that, but that is something that you should look into if wire services are a part of your business you want to go in. So
yes. So you mentioned you took the other money and did other faucets. Do you want to expand on that, or?
Oh, yeah, sure. So I spend a lot of money again on my website. Ton of money on my website. That was really important for me. And then marketing. Essentially what I did when I first started with posies and everything, interesting concept, and my target audience is between 30s and 50s. I reached out to a lot of influencers who were in that age range and in the area that I was promoting. And I spent money going in and spending flowers and giving them free posies in exchange for content. So that was kind of how I decided to spend and market myself. And then I also did a lot of pop-ups when I first started in my area, because don't let anybody tell you that they're cheap to start. It is expensive to do all of that. So that was how I decided, and that was kind of my marketing budget in a way. And because to me, if you're doing a wire service, you are marketing yourself in that regard. So, but yeah, that's kind of how I went on and did that. So
I love it. All right, I'm gonna pop in one more question before we wrap up. Sound good? Another one from Susan. I love you, by the way. Thank you for all these questions.
Yes, thank you.
I know you mentioned when you're delivering the posies that they don't come in a vase, but if they're not home, you might pop it in one. But Susan is asking, how do you deliver the posies? Are the flowers in water tubes? How do you keep them hydrated for delivery? Like, what are they? Are they sitting in water while they're in your vehicle?
Yes. So I'll be honest, I just get the dollar store vases, the cylinders. That was honestly the cheapest thing because I looked into doing like wraps and getting big water tubes and stuff like that. I needed something that was easy and I needed something that was cheap in this regard. And since really all I needed was something to hydrate the stems if they're on a porch or if they're in my vehicle or wherever. So I just get the dollar store vases. I put a little bit of water in it and call it a day. Again, if someone's not home, then yes, it's unfortunate that I have to use a vase, but I obviously don't want to take the risk in them not being hydrated. So yes, that is where I go with that. So I'm sure that the eco wraps or the wraps or whatever it is, like if you want to just use a piece of wet paper towel, I couldn't get that word out, and a Ziploc bag, I mean, it works, but I have just found that the vases are just easiest. So,
great, good answers for the whole entire show. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you. This was fun.
It was fun. So I shared your Instagram too in the comments for anyone that wants to connect with you afterwards. You're such a wealth of knowledge, and thank you so much for sharing everything. And I'm so excited for your next video too, guys. Yay. So make sure you stay tuned. And if you haven't watched the July video, head on over to our blog. I posted that link earlier in the show for you guys. It's also up on pretty much all of our social platforms. You can check that out. And again, stay tuned for our August video with you, Amanda.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Thank you all for all of your questions. I really appreciate it. And thank you for including me, Yvonne.
Yes, thank you, guys. And that's a wrap on today's Mornings with Mayesh. Thank you so much for spending the hour with us today. So appreciate it. Stay tuned for our next show and keep on sending in your floral questions. Have a good day, everyone.